Greetings, English 10. Today is grammar lesson number 3, and we are going to cover subjects in unusual positions. So these are basically sentences that aren't your perfect subject, verb. They're going to be a little bit more complicated. There are 4 basic rules, and I'll cover the first 2, and then I'm going to let Ms. Nelson go over the last 2. The first one is inverted sentence order. So it's when the subject appears after the verb or between words that make up the verb phrase. So if you look at the example, the first one reads, "In his garden grew an 800-pound pumpkin." Okay, the very first thing that becomes really important with these advanced sentences is that you cross out your prepositional phrases. So I would go ahead and cross out "in his garden," and then all of a sudden the only thing I have left is talking about a pumpkin and growing. Well, find your verb first, grew, and then find what is doing the growing, the pumpkin. So pumpkin would be your simple subject, grew would be your verb. The next one says, "Never had the neighbors seen such a squash." Okay, if I would go ahead and look at this, there are no prep phrases. So really I would go ahead and find the verb, and the verb is going to be seen, actually had seen. Okay, and who was doing the seeing? It's the neighbors. Okay, the neighbors had seen such a squash. Never is going to be an adverb. We'll cross that out. We don't have to worry about that. The next one is sentences beginning with here or there. And if you can just remember that the words here and there are never, ever subjects. Cross them out, get rid of them, and things would probably be a lot easier for you. And it says up here that the subject usually follows the verb in these sentences. So the example is, "Here's the school's official webpage." Cross out here, because we know here is never a subject. What is this sentence about? We know here's our verb, our linking verb. Okay, web page is. Okay, so your who or what the sentence is about, it's about the web page. That's your subject, and the verb is.
You know, sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
You know, one thing just to think about too is that subject is always going to be a noun or a pronoun. You know, so if you know that this is the verb, and you know that it has to be somewhere in here, you know, just look for a noun or a pronoun, and that might narrow down some of the options too.
And then the last one, it says, "There are students all over the football field." Again, cross out there, get rid of it. Here and there are never subjects. Again, we have a linking verb kind of in the same position here. Over the football field is going to be a prep phrase. Well, who or what is this sentence about? It's about students. So students is your noun there.
All right, the second kind of sentence that sort of messes up where the subject and verb are questions. So most questions, the subject appears after the verb or between the words that make up the verb phrase. So in the example, did Miss Benson just say something hilarious? The best way to do a question is to turn it into a statement, so take away the question. So you would say, "Mrs. Benson did just say something hilarious." So we have Mrs. Benson as the subject, and then we have did say as the verb phrase. Cover all that? Okay. The next one, was it something about witches? You would just turn it into a statement and say it was something about witches. So it would be the subject, and then was something would be the verb phrase.
Just was, actually.
Just was. Oh, gal.
She's being crazy.
Sorry.
Something. All right, next.
Okay, the next one. The next way that the subject is in a weird spot is in an imperative sentence. And we talked about this yesterday with the video that I'm sure that you watched more than once. The subject of an imperative sentence is always the implied you. So in this example, just drink some coffee. You is the subject, and drink is the verb. The next one, listen to my entertaining lecture. I'm talking to you. You listen to my entertaining lecture. So you is the subject, and then listen would be the verb. Take college English. I'm telling you to take college English. So you is the subject, and then take is the verb.
Some really good tricks to help you figure things out is just remember that a subject or verb will never ever be in a prep phrase. So if you can always cross those out, I think you'll help yourself out, because you'll find these to be a little bit more challenging. Any other things we need to go to the next slide, and we're going to practice a couple. I think it might be better if we look at that.
Good idea.
Okay, so this first one, we're just going to underline the we're going to cross out prep phrases and underline the subject once and the verb twice. Where can you get good cabbage these days? I get rid of these question words, okay? And then I think to myself, okay, I see a question, I need to change this into a statement. You can get good cabbage these days. When it's in that order, it's obvious then that you is the who or what, and can get would be your verb. Okay.
Okay, the next one, come to the annual cabbage competition in Palmer, Alaska. That's an imperative sentence. It's telling you that you have to come. And so, you is that implied subject, and it's telling you to come to the cabbage competition.
The next one is there is hot competition for the $4,000 first prize. First of all, here and there are never subjects. Get rid of that. Secondly, we have a prepositional phrase. We're going to cross that out. All of a sudden, we have 3 words to determine the subject and verb. Who or what is the sentence about? It's about the competition, and the verb is.
All right, this one. To Leslie Dinkle goes the title. I mean, just even maybe by listening to this sentence, if you say it out loud to yourself, you're like, that sounds a little bit funny. And that's just when, that's one of those inverted sentences. So,
I would cross out the prep phrase first.
all right, and so then you're left with the 3 again. Okay, so this would be the verb, and then this would be the subject, because, you know, the is not a noun or a pronoun.
And number 5, here is their best advice. Again, I would get rid of here or there right away, and know who or what is the sentence about, advice, and you should be able to recognize it as your linking verb.
Number 6 here, protect your cabbages from moose. Again, it's an imperative sentence. It's got the implied you, which is the subject, and it's telling you what to do. And so protect is the verb.
And almost always, I think, in these sentences, inverted or the imperatives, the verb is almost always the first word.
Yeah.
The last one, how can you argue with advice like that? Okay. First of all, again, I like to get rid of the question word, and then also I like to get rid of the prep phrases. Well, then it'd kind of be 2 prep phrases. Don't question me on that. And then, who or what is the sentence about? The sentence in the subject is you, and what are we doing can argue. Don't forget your helping verb. And I think that wraps it up for today's grammar lesson.